Okay.
And I'm gonna put the Zoom over there. Hey, hello, hello, hello. Done redirecting. All righty, we are live on Facebook. I am so happy, glad to be here this afternoon for Talk to Tuesdays. And we are featuring a conversation with Jacquie McIver, who is the CEO and director of Jeremiah's Voice. Come on in the room, come on in the room. Boy, I'm so used to playing gospel music when I go on that I feel like I ought to have something going now in the background.
That's all right. Come on in the room.
Come on in, there you go. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. All right. Jacquie, I'm so glad to have you sitting with me today and saying yes to this conversation on Talk to Tuesdays. So I want to give you the floor. Introduce yourself. I've given you the best introduction I can. Jacquie McIver, CEO and director of Jeremiah's Voice.
Well, thank you, Dr. K. I appreciate you so much. Honestly, I am the founder of Jeremiah's Voice, and Jeremiah's Voice is actually inspired by my son named Jeremiah. Jeremiah came into this world 1 pound and 15 ounces and spent almost 90 days in the NICU, was given only 24 hours to live. But every day that little boy smiled. I don't care how many needles, how many punctures he was having, he was smiling. And I said, that's interesting. Here is someone going through all of this, yet smiling. And he inspired me from the day he came into this world. And now he just kind of helped me to go and force her to do something to help somebody else. His inspiration inspired me to help other people. And Jeremiah is wonderful. He's now 10 years old. So in spite of what the doctor said, he's 10. They said he wouldn't be speaking. He's reading at the 4th grade reading level. So his inspiration alone has helped me to see there's more to life. And it also exposed me to something that I'd never paid attention to. These children with disabilities are valuable people. They have a lot to offer society. And they're almost forgotten because people want to hide away their disability or hide away their differences or hide away, I call it, their uniquenesses, and don't even allow them to embrace in society. And for me, Jeremiah is the epitome of what people should be like. You know, loving, caring, compassionate, non-judgmental, just glad to be alive, thankful for things. I mean, so many things. So his inspiration helped me to create Jeremiah's Voice. We are a 501c public charity. We service people and families caring for special needs children or people, those who are living with disabilities. And we want to provide them support. Our motto, basically, Dr. K, is living beyond disability. They have a right to live. And we want them to live not based on their disability, but beyond their disability. And if you think about that, keeping the right perspective and the right mindset helps you to see things differently. And trust me, this journey I've had to learn real quick. You're either going to see them the way someone tells you, or you're going to see them the way you believe that God has them, God has them here.
Wow. So he was born, now he was a preemie, wasn't he?
He was a preemie, it was 1 pound, 15 ounces, came at week 27. So he barely was given, he's had 11 major surgeries in 10 years. From the first day of his life, he had to have heart surgery in order for him to live. He probably has code blue on me 4 times, 2 in the NICU and 2 at home. Because literally his lungs were underdeveloped. I mean, you're talking about a 1 pound, 15 ounces, week 27. So the lungs haven't developed. His brain didn't develop. So he has severe brain bleeds on both sides of his brains. He has a hemorrhaging. And also when he was a year old, he had to have a brain surgery. So he literally had to have a part of his brain is removed on the right side. So people see that, they always ask me, does he have a shunt? I was like, no, he doesn't have that portion of his brain. But in spite of all of that, in 1 year old, he is now literally reading, vocabulary, singing, and doing things that the doctor said he could never do. So for me, that in itself gives me hope and inspiration to live.
Yeah, that is. Now, I'm the mother of a preemie as well, and my son was born a week earlier than yours. But because they anticipated that he would be premature, they gave me steroid shots and they gave me double and triple doses to make sure that he would be strong enough when he was born. So he weighed 1 pound, 11 ounces, but we didn't have any of the struggles that you had. But what I'm hearing though, what I love is that you didn't let Jeremiah hear what the doctors had to say.
Oh no, I couldn't. I mean, here's the
It,
honest thing, and I tell people this all the time. It's my faith in God. I
yeah,
don't hide it from nobody. I don't shun it from nobody. There's a God that has the final say. And for me, that
yeah.
is where I listen to his voice. And the first day of his life, God gave me a choice. Am I going to believe for him for his life or let him go to heaven? I chose to stand on the word of God, and I declared it out of my mouth when they said, your son is downstairs cold blue. What do you want us to do? He shall not die. He will
He
live.
shall live,
And he will
yet
declare
declare.
the works of the Lord. So at one point, he was going to have to talk, because in order to declare something, you have to speak it. So when they said he couldn't speak, I said, oh, right. But he didn't start talking until he was 6 years old. So not a word came out of his mouth, nothing of sounds came out, but not a verbal word. But I kept talking to him, just like you and I are talking. I kept talking to him. I kept enunciating words, knowing that he couldn't say a sound. But my faith in God is what I believe helped encourage him to know he could make it. And he's going to do more greater things. This is just the beginning of what God is doing in his life. And I'm grateful for him. And his personality and his smile is infectious.
I can
imagine. It will literally transform people's lives just associating with him. Everybody's ever come in contact with him, they don't see me anymore. They only see Jeremiah.
Yeah, we have to talk about losing identity to children and other family members.
Exactly. Well, Lord,
it happens. But I'm amazed. He didn't say a word until 6. And now in 4 years, he has covered every bit of territory and then some. Absolutely. To be reading at a 4th grade level, he has caught up completely, even with not having speech at the very beginning.
Exactly. Not having the right side of the brain that triggers, that handles the speech, that all of us have this part of our brain that triggers, and all of us are able to talk. I had to learn a lot of stuff in science and anatomy, by force and default. But one of the things I learned, the area of his brain that's been damaged the most is the area where speech comes from. My God. And so when you say that to me, and it's like, even his doctor, his neurosurgeon, I saw her 2 weeks ago. She hadn't seen him since she did the surgery when he was a year old. She was astonished at how big he is, how healthy he looks, and how well he's articulating his own words. Now, does he still have speech delays, or what we call limited expressive ability? Yes, he does. But when I say he is growing every day, because I keep telling him, not only does he speak, he quotes scriptures. Now, I'm not talking about a verse. I'm talking about entire books of the Bibles from beginning to end. So the 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter, he reads the entire chapter. He goes all the way from beginning to end, and he says it every night. Psalms 91, Psalms 23, Psalms 150, and he has his own bedtime prayer where he declares and decree that he will walk in obedience to God, because he learns this. And so every night he says the Lord's Prayer every morning. Like, we got our Father, and he says the whole thing. He initiates, and he thanks God for his healing, because I'm believing God to heal him, to actually get him out of that wheelchair, to walk one day, to take his own independent steps to the glory of God.
I can't wait for COVID to end so that I can meet him.
I know. I know.
Kid. I can't wait for COVID to end so I can meet him. This boy, I'm hearing preacher, I'm hearing motivational speaker. Yeah. I'm hearing books from him. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Just that he had to be hanging out. You said your son was in the NICU for 90 days. My son was the same. My son was due on November 17th. He was born on August 6th. So we know each other's journey when they came way before they were supposed to.
Ooh, that's a different journey.
Your Jeremiah was hanging out with God.
He had to be. I promise you.
He was hanging out with God.
But you know what?
My son was getting mad at the nurses. Your son was at the foot of the cross. All the nurses would say, we know when Mr. Corbin is angry, because Mr. Corbin would let us know if he doesn't like the position he's in. Your son was like, Paul, look, God, you got to teach me how to handle this thing.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Because he had to be. He had to be. And the thing that I learned, and I know you're a preacher, so you understand this. There are times, and I used to be a pastor, and I used to preach the word of God. But I realized I knew about God. I knew how to study his word. I can articulate the scriptures and exegete the text and give you the homiletics, and I can do all those wonderful things. But you know what's really sad? I didn't even know him until Jeremiah was born. The night Jeremiah was born, it was my Damascus Road experience where I got to know God for myself. That's what transformed my life to believe God for the miraculous in my son's life. I could give up on the God I've been teaching other people to believe in too. How do I do that? Sit up here and say, well, trust God. God loves you. He's going to be there for you. And as soon as I'm faced with a challenge, and I told the doctors, even if you don't know what you're doing, trust me, God will give you wisdom. And I watched the doctor literally cry after being prayed for before she did a heart surgery. She had never done the heart surgery before. She read it in a book.
Especially not on a child that small.
1 pound, 15 ounces. Think of a big baked potato.
And if your fist is the size if your heart is the size of your fist.
Imagine that.
Y'all imagine what his heart was. If he was the size of a good potato, his heart was the size of a peanut.
Exactly.
Just think in terms of relativity. His heart, she's working on a beating heart, the size of a potato. I mean, the size of a peanut. The body's the size of a potato. The heart is the size of a peanut. And she's doing surgery on it.
Right.
Touching
and it took
arteries,
2 people.
Touching veins. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But I told her, and I told the doctor, she stood by my bed. She says, 1, she said, we think we know the problem. But 2, she says, I asked her, have you ever done this surgery? And she said, no. I said, where's the best doctor in the area? They said, well, they're in Plano. But if you go to Plano, you got a care flight and he may not make it because of the elevation and him sustaining. I said, well, let me ask you this question. And I said it to her just like this. Will you allow my pastor to pray for you? Because I didn't have enough energy at that moment to do it. She said, absolutely. He prayed a prayer over her. She left my room crying, going down doing the surgery that she had just read in a book. She had never done it. She read it in a book before she came and stood by my bedside. But she trusted the faith that I had. And I didn't realize, of course, at that time she was a Christian, but I didn't know it at the time. I don't ask them kind of questions. She's telling me about my child's medical condition. It didn't matter. Can you do it? Oh, okay.
My pastor's praying over you.
Exactly, right. So I didn't care about that at that point. But the thing that she explained to me was it took 2 people to do the surgery because it required 2 hands. One could not absolutely move to keep the whatever the device steady, and the other was able to do to move it. And so I'm sitting here thinking, well, God, you're going to have to be in control. And then they told me after the surgery, the next 72 hours will determine whether he lives or not.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, take me on downstairs. I'm going to see my son. And literally 10 years later, he's here.
Wow. So this boy's life, his whole journey is nothing short of miraculous.
Absolutely.
Nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm thankful for. I'm thankful, and I'm thankful that you sharing that you had that similar experience, because a lot of times people don't know what that NICU experience is like when you're with the other kids and kids are small and everybody's kind of going through it. Everybody's in the same boat, and it doesn't matter color, skin, doesn't matter what you believe. We all become family because our children are fighting for their life, and there's nothing as parents we can do.
Yeah. And all we can do is sit and pray for each other and console each other and encourage each other.
Exactly.
I remember being in the NICU and them showing me, because our babies were so small. I remember when he got into the Kilo Club.
Yes.
Yep. Remember they put the sign on?
Yes.
The sign on the incubator.
Right.
And I remember seeing my first little girl. She was the cutest little girl, and she made it to the Kilo Club. And all I could think of is, wow, she's a real porker.
Right.
And the parents laughed and they said, finally, she's finally picking up. I mean, people, you can't imagine seeing a baby that is literally nothing but skin and bones. My son did not have a behind.
Wow.
It was skin, a little bit of muscle, and his bones. He was just formed to that degree. But he really didn't even have a backside because there was no fat to form butt cheeks.
Wow.
So and I just go from that to he's now 25, he's working, he's in the military, he's doing well. So I'm excited for what's coming next for Jeremiah, because I saw what God did with my son. And I remember getting the reports from the neurologist when he came out of the hospital. You can identify with this. There was a doctor's appointment every day for 2 weeks.
Every day for,
and it was a different doctor every day. It wasn't the same doctor.
Right. Exactly. I have 9 doctors on my team right now, 9 specialists that I manage and have managed for the last 10 years. And I
Yeah.
say manage and part of my team because I then have to make sure that they all are on the same page when
Yep.
decisions are made for his life. So when we decided to do, I think it was 3 years ago, a major surgery on his hips, his legs, and everything, I had to get the neurologist, the neurosurgeon. Everybody had to come together,
Mm-hmm.
orthopedic surgeon, in order for the surgery to happen because he was going to be in the hospital for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And and they love it because I'm keeping them informed. If
Yes.
something shifts in Jeremiah right now, trust and believe me, every doctor gets the
Everybody.
message. Everybody
Everybody will
knows.
know.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you've got all these doctors and all these different medications and all these different treatment plans,
Yes.
and they've
Yes.
all got to be on, and each one of them is a specialist in their area. So your
Right.
heart doctor is not thinking about your lung doctor, not thinking about your foot doctor, not thinking about your endocrinologist doctor. They're all on. See, I learned the value of that with Richard and my son,
Okay.
and I also learned the value of that when I worked in the Medicare Advantage field working with seniors who were
Wow.
taking medicines from all these different doctors, like your
Right.
son, 9
Mm-hmm.
different doctors, 9 different medications, and the doctors weren't talking to each other. And the
Right.
seniors, bless their hearts, if they didn't have a son or a daughter who was like you, who was
Mm-hmm.
advocating on their behalf
Absolutely.
and checking medicines and asking the doctor exactly
Mm-hmm.
what does this do? How will I know when it's working?
Mm-hmm.
Those seniors were struggling. They were in such trouble.
Right.
So
Right.
I love the testimony that you're giving to these parents. For you parents, if you have those children who are going through difficulties, who have those
Absolutely.
disabilities,
Absolutely.
they that keeping all those doctors on the same page and keeping each doctor from being big-headed, thinking that
Absolutely.
his specialty is more important than somebody else's.
Right. Right.
That is
And
so significant for them to hear and to know that in doing what they do, it's okay to be a bee. It's your baby.
exactly. Well, here's the thing: they work for you.
Yeah.
That's the end of the thing. At the end of the day, you are managing them. They may be the specialists in an area of expertise, but they work for you and your child. It is
Yes.
required that you understand that they keep that in perspective. And you don't have to be rude. You can be pleasant. And most of the time, they want that because they don't know your child as better as you do. I live with Jeremiah 24 hours a day. So, how
Mm.
can someone who sees him in 30 minutes tell me something that will contradict something that I'm visually seeing? They don't do that if you're engaging and communicating. A lot
Yeah.
of parents, unfortunately, Dr.
Mm.
K, they shut down because they don't understand. The
Mm.
information goes over their head and they're intimidated by it. Trust me, I understand that. I've seen it happen where doctors walk in the room and they're like, well, your child is diagnosed. My son's pediatrician did it to him when he was 4 years old. Oh, Jeremiah
Mm.
will never do anything. This is all he's going to be. He was in his wheelchair, rocking his head, and that's all he said. That's how you're going to be. Just get prepared for it. And I left there so despondent. I cried
Mm.
all the way from the hospital to the school. And when I got to school, one of the teachers pulled me aside. No matter of fact, she came right to face to face. She said, "Whose report do you believe?"
Mm.
And I said, "What did you say?" Now, this is a teacher. I wasn't in church. This is a teacher said, "Whose report do you believe?" I said, I believe the report of the Lord. Then you need to wipe them tears and stand on what God has told you.
Come on.
and and that was something that somebody will use. I mean, God will use somebody. I wasn't in the spirit realm. I was crying. They just told me my son was never going to be able to do nothing. I'm
Mm.
crying as a mother, and someone says, "Whose report do you believe?" And that shifted everything in my mindset. With tears running
Wow.
down my face, I was determined to believe God no matter what it looked like to me. And he was only in pre. I mean, he was actually in pre-K, so it was called PPCD. So he was
Mhm.
just starting that program. So that's before
Wow.
kindergarten.
So
And
we need to
so,
take this. As one of my friends would say, let's hit a Selah moment. I
right,
first saw somebody who had tuned in, and now I don't know if they're still tuning in. But
okay.
I'm Cassandra, Dr. K. Brown. This is Talk to Conversation Tuesday, or Talk to Tuesday Conversation with Jacquie McIver and Jeremiah's Voice. Y'all know I'm new to this Facebook Live thing. Uh, so I'm gonna make some mistakes. That's all there is to it. And plus, it's just me. I haven't reached perfection yet, but I'm working on it. But anyway, I want to grab a Selah moment, as one of my friends would say. She said, "Wait a minute, let's just take a moment and get that word that you dropped, because you dropped a serious nugget. Somebody spoke to you and
Mhm.
encouraged you in a down moment, and what
Mhm.
they said was, 'Whose report will you believe?'
Right.
That is so powerful." And to
Absolutely.
those who are listening who catch this on the replay, you can speak a word and
Mhm.
encourage somebody, because Jeremiah is doing what he's doing because of his mama's faith. He didn't have faith for himself. He relied on his mama's faith. And at the moment that his mom was losing faith, somebody else came and infused it in her.
Wow.
So
That's
at a moment, you had to rely on somebody else's faith.
right. Right.
And
And
that fueled your faith with fuel
exactly.
his faith.
Exactly.
And now we got a boy who didn't speak a word until age 6, who the doctors had said he won't be able to do this, he won't be able to do that, he won't be able to do this other. And now at 10, not only is he speaking, he's reading at a 4th grade level. So he is caught up completely. And not only is he reading, but he's doing what a lot of adults can't do. He's memorizing scripture.
Right. That's
and you ain't say just a verse or two here or there.
no.
This boy is memorizing chapters and small books.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, he will walk.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I believe that with all my heart.
He
I
will.
know I believe that with all my heart. You know, and later on he got diagnosed at 6, he got diagnosed with autism. He got diagnosed at 5 with IDD, which is intellectual developmental disability. So all these labels are on, they've got diagnosis. But if you notice, I said they diagnosed him. I don't walk in agreement with that, although it's obvious. I'm seeing the characteristics, the behavior, all of those things. And one of the things you just said, and I think is really key, everybody's going through something right now with this pandemic. Everybody is faced with something that is outside of their control. But if someone comes along and speaks a word, it encourages you to believe. We didn't think we were going to make it since March until now. We are about to be in what, November, approaching December, and we're still here.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So everybody can relate to this. This is something that can be done by simply someone just saying, whose report do you believe?
There you go. There you go. And it's just that simple, encouraging one another with these words. Whose report? Did God tell you he would provide? Then believe that provision is there.
Absolutely.
God tell you he can work miracles. That's why I love that song, Waymaker, Miracle Worker, Light in the Darkness.
Yes.
That is who you are. One of my favorite songs.
Absolutely.
And whenever I hit the dumps, that's something that I put on because I know it will lift me, because it reminds me of what God said. Right. And that God is faithful to his word. Now let's shift and start. We've talked about Jeremiah, talked about his journey. Let's shift and talk about Jeremiah's voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jeremiah's voice started when I was about to turn 50 years old. Instead of me doing a 50, birthday celebration, celebrating this major milestone, I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to do something for someone else. So I decided to start Jeremiah's Voice. And we started out initially before the pandemic, giving away vacations to Disney World. And so we started in 2018. And when we opened up with our launch ceremony, and we was able to give, actually, this little boy on this side of me, if you can see, is the young man that we sent to Disney World, him and his family. We gave him a 5-day, 4-night, fully paid expense vacation. And the reason I did that was because we went on vacation in 2016 with Jeremiah. Going on vacation is not something that people with children with disability do, because it requires so much thought. You just can't go get an airline ticket, a hotel room, and a rental car. If you got a wheelchair, it has to be wheelchair accessible. If they have medications, you got to get through the TSA. There are so many things that we don't consider how to get a child from point A to point B, that most parents, what they do is they don't go on vacation. If they do, they go on a road trip. We wanted to expand the horizon, help people to start living. So we gave away vacations. Well, we also started a program, that initiative that we love, which is this time of the year, which is called Hope for the Holidays. Our Hope for the Holidays initiative is something I absolutely love, because we get to be Santa Clauses and the little elves. And the reason I say that is we want to bring hope to families. And in the times that the holidays, even before the pandemic, the holidays have always been hard times for our families, because we don't get the invites to come to the family dinners. We don't get the invites to come over to, hang out and let's open up the gifts. Because one, we don't want to have your child in our house and we can't accommodate them. If they have a meltdown, or if they're in a wheelchair, they can't get into our house, or we don't understand because they're nonverbal. They're not able to speak a word. So who's going over there play with them? There's a whole lot of things that have to be in consideration. And there's a lot of isolation, and you feel alone. And no matter what people say, it's hard for someone to know what gifts to get a child with disabilities. Let's think about it. We talked about this before. When kids have a disability and you don't know what to give them, you give them something that may not be appropriate. Let's take an example. Jeremiah was 4, a good friend of mine. I think he had the best heart in mind. My son is in a wheelchair. He gave my son a bike because he didn't know my son was in a wheelchair. That in itself was an eye-opener for me. How many other families go through that same dilemma? How many other families go through thinking, you know what? People don't understand what to give my child. And some people are afraid to ask. They don't want to feel like they're insulting you. But I tell people all the time, ask the question and find out what their need. And some families, honestly, may or may not tell you anything, and it's okay. But if they do, then buy what they tell you for that child. So hopefully the holiday kind of helps facilitate that whole experience
That
for a
whole
family.
process. Now,
Exactly.
you guys deliver the gifts you told me on Christmas Eve.
Absolutely. So actually, we're doing it right now. We're actually getting, we kind of wait a little bit after Thanksgiving to kind of really push it forward. But we are raising money right now at jeremiahsvoice.org to help families. We have 4 families this year, all of from the Metroplex. And you go out there, you can learn about the kiddos and what they want on their hope list for the holidays. And basically, what we do is we purchase all the items, and then me and my board, we actually go and deliver. Not only do we give the kids gifts, we give the family a fully catered meal by a professional chef. And the
That's where
reason we do
I was about to
catering,
go to that space.
exactly. The reason we do catering, not that we don't want a box of food, but I'm gonna be honest with you, we're exhausted. We are
Mhm.
so tired. We don't want to get in the kitchen all day and cook. We want to spend and enjoy those moments with the holidays with our families. And so, we decided to do something a little bit different. So this way, the meal comes to them on Christmas Eve. All they got to do Christmas morning or Christmas Day is heat up the food,
Yeah.
sit back and eat and enjoy watching their child open up their gifts. Now that's we want to mix.
That goes to another area in delivering a catered meal. If this is a family that, because of the circumstances of that child, they're not getting invited to the family dinner, they're not going out to the restaurants because economically that's just not feasible for a lot of them, because it takes a lot of money to take care of a severely disabled child. You've got a whole lot. You're talking medicines, you're talking additional equipment, and the supplies that go with that equipment, because all of the equipment has disposables. My son came home on a nebulizer, so we had to get new tubing. He came home on oxygen, so we had to get new cannulas. And all of that kind of stuff adds up, depending on the kind of insurance that you have, whether or not you qualify for any kind of assistance. That becomes a financial, that's a whole nother story. So you bringing in a catered meal, mom or dad being in the kitchen cooking another dinner is nothing special. This becomes a day like any other day. So for Jeremiah's Voice to show up not only with presents that are suitable to that child, that are picked for that child, that are beneficial to that child, you come in giving the parents a break from having to prepare a meal. And now Christmas really is as special, or the holiday, because not everybody celebrates Christmas. The holiday is as special and unique as the holiday should be. It's not just another day in the year, another day on the calendar. So I really applaud that ministry, and we can use the word ministry with any group, because it simply means to bring aid. It simply means minister. When somebody says the word minister, it doesn't mean a cloistered person who's got the big collar. What it simply means is somebody who is giving aid, somebody who is rendering help. And that's what Jeremiah's Voice does at this time of year for these families that have these issues. Again, I'm Cassandra, Dr. K. Brown. I'm the Tilted Fedora trainer. I'm having a wonderful Tuesday conversation with Jacquie McIver, CEO and director of Jeremiah's Voice, a nonprofit that provides services, vacations, and holiday cheer for families with children who are diagnosed with disabilities. And the word diagnosed is key, because those disabilities don't define these children. That was good, Cassandra. That was good.
That was good. That was good. Well, and that's the truth. And that's the thing that you have to understand. Most people will see autism because that's the biggest one everybody knows, or you see cerebral palsy, or you see Down syndrome. You see these terms and you automatically associate this individual with lack or limited. But if you see this person as Cassandra, you see this person as Jacquie, with or without whatever they've been diagnosed, you see them as a human being. If we focus on the value of them being humans, just like if they bleed and cry just like we do, they have desires just like we do, we would then have a better way of inclusion. We use that term, but we don't understand what that really means. And I can say that because my son is not always included in things because he's in a wheelchair. And I'm not just talking about because there's some of the disabilities you can't even see. And that becomes hard when your child has autism is very popular. Autistic child sometimes does not display any physical demeanor or anything they can see. But if they're sitting there and they're not able to say a word, if they're sitting there, if they, and they all of a sudden they start rocking their heads or torching or something like that, people will get afraid because they don't understand what's going on with that kid. But instead of just saying, you know what, no matter what they have, you know, I saw a little girl say this to a little kid one day, and I love it. She says, I don't care if you rock your head, you're a boy, just like I'm a little girl. And let's figure out how we can communicate with one another or play with one another, whether we say a word to each other or not. And that's how we should be with one another. Disabilities, just, you got cancer, you're not cancer. You got diabetes, you're not diabetes.
Yeah.
So why do we put disability and say you're
Yeah.
No, no, you are human. You are male or female, and that's what you are.
Mm-hmm. See, that is, I love it. That is wonderful. Sometimes children, there's a verse that says that out of the mouths of babes, God has ordained. And there
Absolutely.
are different translations. Some translations say strength, other translations say wisdom.
Right.
Either one works. Because out of the mouths of babes, those babes who've been raised in good homes, we can get some great information.
Absolutely.
That is wonderful that she said, I don't care, you're a kid, we're going to play.
Exactly.
And we'll work it out and make it work. We will play. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what is your budget for this time? We're going to, for anybody who watches this, we're doing this as a fundraiser, not just as a fundraiser, but as a conversation, not just as a conversation, but also as a fundraiser. Because if I've got people who are following me now, and praise God, there are some who do, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to throw the first donation in when we get done with this, and then I'm going to ask them to join in and see how much of what you need we can supply. So
we're helping.
What's your budget?
We're helping 4 families, and we budget out for each family. We spend $700. That's including the meal, the catered meal, as well as gift items. And the reason we budget that amount, and that's a pretty large, people are like, well, that's a high amount. But some of the gift items have to be custom, sometimes made for kids. Do you realize if a child has one arm and is not able to move the other arms, their clothes have to be called adaptive. And it costs to have something adaptive. Or if you have a child who's not able to, who's quadriplegic, who's not able to move at all, and there's things that they have to use their eyesight, well, that increases the value of what they need. So it all depends on what it is. So we wanted to give a nice size budget. So we budget $700. So we have 4 families. So that would come up to about $3,000 that we need to administer and get these families what they need this holiday season. And we're excited because I don't just give families randomly. People ask me, where do you get your families from? Well, let me explain. I value people's dollars. I value when people donate to Jeremiah's Voice, they will know that these families are in need. So we go through home health agencies to acquire our children and our families because these therapists that are in the home, they know the family. They know the family better than anybody because they're working with the kids. So they can provide insight to some of the things that the kid will help. We had a young lady, the little girl, I'll never forget. She was only about 2 years old. She had a disease a diagnosis that she was diagnosed with, that she was unable to be outside. So that sounds like, oh, wow, how is that how she can function? So as a little child, she couldn't go outside because of her diagnosis. So we brought outside to her. So we got her a slide in the house. We got her a big ball and a big chair for her to be able to have fun, to be able to play with her siblings. At the end of the day, every child is uniquely different. And what we do is we want to find out what's different. So one of our kids, if you go to jeremiahsvoice.org, you will see we have a young man who's 3 years old. His name is Pablo. Pablo loves music, but Pablo literally doesn't understand some of the communication language things because he's nonverbal. So he's not able to tell us things. So some of the devices we're getting him or items we're getting him or would like to get him, I should say, will help him be able to communicate fun things to his family members, to his siblings, and to people in the community. So we do spend $700 and we make sure that we value the children because these are the kids that don't get the gifts under the tree. Other typical kids, they can get anything. You say they're 10, okay, you get them a gift that's 10. But if they're autistic and they're 10, but they only like little kids, 18 months. Oh, what parent is going to tell you, my 10-year-old wants something in the 18-month aisle. So when you go buy a gift, go to the little baby aisle. Nobody's going to tell you that. Let's be honest with one another.
Listen, when we talked before, you told me a story about the first time you realized that you would not be able to shop on the aisle that matched the age of your son. Or you couldn't just run into Walmart or Target. I'm not giving a plug. I'm just naming stores.
Right, exactly.
I'm not telling anybody where to shop, just naming stores. You couldn't walk into the local place and just go grab something off the shelves. Tell us about that.
I'm glad you reminded me, but that happens to me. Matter of fact, just yesterday. That's how close it is. I go to, let's go, go to a retail store. We won't have to give them plot because they're not giving us any donations yet. But I
We're gonna
stood in
work
the,
on that.
exactly. I stood on the children's aisle. My son is 10. He should be into robots and cars and trucks and things like that. And I cried because my son doesn't understand a car. He doesn't understand the road. And sometimes the sound triggers meltdowns. So I'm having to look at, he's only got one arm. He's considered triplegic cerebral palsy, which means he doesn't have, his legs doesn't operate yet. And his left arm, he's not able to use that. So he only has one arm. So anything I get him has to be where he can use his one arm. I cry because nobody really makes toys or makes items for kiddos like my son. And so when I go into the store and have to go Christmas shopping or birthday shopping or just want to get him something, I default to books because he loves to read. But he's a kid. I want to see him play with cars and trucks and things. But he's 10 years old and cognitively, he may not, he doesn't understand a car. When he sees a car, he sees boom. I don't want to teach him to run into things, but you know what I'm saying? It's a different feeling. It's a hard place to be when you tell someone, oh, I got a 10-year-old boy. Oh, well, you can go right here. These are all the latest items. And I know for good time, well, Jeremiah won't even value or appreciate it. And it's hard for parents because we don't know what to do because we're not therapists. We're not doctors. We don't know. So we go into the store, want to get them the latest item, but realizing they don't even appreciate or even understand what it is.
Wow. Yeah, that's a whole other journey.
Yes, Lord.
That's a whole nother journey. So
Right.
you decided to form Jeremiah's Voice out of your 50th birthday celebration. You
Yes,
helped one
absolutely.
family first, and now
Absolutely.
you're up to 4 families. Now, with that first family, did you only cover that vacation and you weren't able to do anything for the holidays? So the goal was just to give them that vacation?
Well, the first family actually won now the vacations are handled a little bit differently. That
Mm-hmm.
we basically solicit families from all over the state of Texas. The only requirement was they had to be a resident of Texas and have a child with a disability that we could verify. That went out to everybody. We got applications from all over the state of Texas, and my board actually selected the family. I had nothing to do with it, so that it would be with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
The Hope for the Holiday initiative, we've been doing that for 3 years. And every year we increase. So the first year we actually helped 2 families. And so every year we increase because as the need grows, we want to grow. So as we grow, we want to help more families. And this year, unfortunately, with the pandemic, there are a whole lot more families this year that we
Yeah.
could possibly help. And we want to, but unfortunately, let's be realistic, we're not able to do that in the current state that we're in. So the families that were selected went through a vetting process, and there was a bunch of families. We let the home health agencies go through based on certain criteria to identify those families who had the greatest need so that we could bring it to them. But honestly, I'm gonna be honest, there are a whole lot more families. I would love to be able to experience Hope for the Holidays. But unfortunately, at this point in time, this is where we are in the side.
Well, because Jeremiah's Voice is still pretty young as nonprofits go.
Absolutely.
And y'all, you need to know this is a true nonprofit. This is a full 501c3. They have their federal tax information in place.
Absolutely.
She's filing annual reports so that
Absolutely.
if anybody wants to check out the bona fides, that's what that
Absolutely.
big word bona fides, uh, that says she's legit. So when you give to this ministry, when you give to this nonprofit, you really are giving to the families that need the help the most.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the beautiful thing is this is not directly, and I have to say this, Jeremiah and I don't benefit from this. I do this out of the heartbeat of my love for people. Having been a pastor, you minister the word of God, but we've also know that there's some practical needs that we need to meet. And this is my way of doing that with other families. So when we get funds coming in, my board doesn't agree with me all the time, but I don't do this other than for me to extend to other families. And this year has been tremendously hard on me. Somebody was asking me just the other day, how are you still doing it this year? As you know, I just lost my mother 38 days ago. So I'm in a grieving process, but these families, their needs are there. And my mother told me, do what's in your heart. Don't let nothing stop you. And not even at her death will she want me to be stopping helping these families. So this is really significant for me. And a lot of people are giving donations in memory of my mom because they understand my mom loved what I was doing, even though she may not have fully understood everything. She's 95 years old, but she encouraged me to be who God told me to be. And that is to serve other people. That's what I'm here for, to serve other people.
So in the midst of the pain of mom's loss, you're going on with life.
I have
Because
to.
literally what has to happen. The fact that your mom transitioned into glory does not stop the needs of these families.
Absolutely.
I want to go back and as the preachers would say, I want to go back and grab a pinpoint. grab a pinpoint. Because of COVID, these families are under now, we're under a strain, but these families, you and Jeremiah, are under another level of strain. Talk about what you guys have gone through in this COVID period, you being the caretaker, primary caretaker for two fully disabled people.
Right, right. Well, you know, the thing, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because since March, a lot of families did send their kids back to school here in the fall, but initially our kids were home with us 24 hours a day. So that 7.5 hour break that we used to get when our kids was at school, we don't get that anymore. And our kids, if you understand anything about, especially with autism, they don't like change. So now you're sitting them in front of a iPad, a computer, or some type of device, and now telling them to learn. Well, the sad part of it is, Dr. K, is these kids were not designed to do that. So they're frustrated. They're not understanding, why can't they leave the house. For example, my son has not left the house. He doesn't go anywhere other than necessary places like doctor's appointment. He doesn't go in public. And I don't let people around him because he's high risk. And so there's a lot of isolation. After a period of time, 1 month, 2 months, we can probably handle that. We're going into what, 8, 9 months? Isolation will get to anybody. I don't care how strong you are. And all these families got all of their kiddos. So Jeremiah is by himself, but here's the beautiful thing. You got families who have got 3 and 4 kids. So now they're dealing with 3 and 4 kids at home. They're losing their jobs. Their lives have changed. They can't go. They have no outlet. I mean, they don't want to put their children at risk. So all of this is going on. You got a mental breakdown that no one can really understand, because you want to be there for your kid. You want to be able to make sure that they're safe. You want to make sure they have their needs met. But you yourself as an adult, as a parent, that's going through yourself because of isolation. You can't do things. You can't, like, how many times have we talked about getting together? Well, I can't get together with anybody, because if I come home, I can give COVID to Jeremiah, and he doesn't have the immune system or the, to be able to overcome this. And COVID does not discriminate, Christian or non-Christian, born again, speaking in tongues, or never gone to church a day in your life. COVID does not discriminate. So you have to use
Jew, Gentile, atheist.
Exactly. It don't really matter.
No denominational designations. You've just highlighted another point in that, where we can think about these families going through this time of year, is that I made an offer to you to come in and just give you a break when you needed one, but you can't risk bringing somebody into the house.
Right. That's it.
With these other children, these families that have quote unquote normal children, they can't let those kids go out because those kids may bring something back in.
Absolutely.
Family is impacted. Now, I want to go back to the hope for the holidays. Do you purchase gifts just for the child that is uniquely abled, or do you get gifts for all of the children?
We focus on the child that has the diagnosis, and because a lot of other agencies, we don't try to duplicate and reinvent the wheel. They have a lot of other outlets. A great one across the nation is Toy for Tot. They do a great and a phenomenal job. I love what they do, but they can't meet the needs of our kids because they go by age and go by gender. Well, again, we've had that conversation. It doesn't always fit. So those kids have an opportunity, and we try to help them find resources to get the other kids gifts. But Jeremiah Voice tailors their gifts and their target to the kid with a disability.
Okay. I can understand that. I can appreciate that. Giving those families the other area agencies that they can go to where they can cover their other children, but specifically targeting that child that's uniquely able. This has been a wonderful conversation. You have given so much great information. For anybody who is just catching this live, I'm Cassandra, Dr. K. Brown. I am having a Talk to Tuesday conversation with Jacquie McIver, the CEO and director of Jeremiah's Voice. Jeremiah's Voice is a full 501c3. That means that when you donate to them, you get to take it off your taxes.
That's right.
That's important. It's not tied to any church. So don't think that money is coming in from other sources. If the people who hear this message don't support, then there is no support. So I'm reaching out to my network. I'm challenging the people who see this live and who catch it on the replay to give to this organization that helps families with children who have a diagnosis of a disability.
Absolutely.
And we're saying that it's a diagnosis only because the disability does not define the child. She's the mother of a little boy that she was told he wouldn't live for 24 hours. Then he might not live for 72 hours. Then every day is a day. So just be happy that you got it. And then at 4 years old, well, this is it. What you see in the wheelchair is all there is. And that same little boy now, who didn't speak a word until he was 6 years old, is now reading at a 4th grade level, memorizing scripture, and not just a verse at a time, but whole chapters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just still, every time I say that, I feel like the hyenas in Lion King. Just ooh, just the thought of that. Ooh, that whole miraculous activity of God in this child's life. Now, there's something else you told me that I'm going to, if you don't mind my sharing it. You said that since Jeremiah has been born, you really haven't had a regular full-time job, if I'm remembering correctly. Correct
That
me
is
if
correct. No, I have not. You're absolutely 100% correct.
Vision has been a walk of faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
encourage the listeners with that.
Oh, and honestly, I had a choice. I mean, I could have continued my career, but how do I do that? And my child has greater needs than anything. The reality of it is, I had to choose. Well, I'm going to sacrifice for my child, or I'm going to sacrifice my child and try to, ascertain money or things like that. But God asked me, will I trust him? And I said, God, I trust you. I said, I don't know what that means, but I trust you, God, that you're going to take care of every need. And God has not, I promise you, God has not missed a beat. When I tell you, I've seen the hand of God on my life. He's 10 years old. So I shut down my business. I gave up my jobs. I shut down everything just to ensure that he lived. But I didn't know that down the road, my mother would acquire Alzheimer's, and I have to be able to be a caregiver for her simultaneously. What if I had a job? How would I have been able to take care of my loved ones, my mother who gave birth to me, and then take care of my son who I gave birth to? So for me, it was important that I relied on God. And I know people talk about faith and trusting God. I've heard all the wonderful cliches, but the reality of it is, when you have nothing coming in and you don't know how it's going to happen, your faith is all you have. And I can tell you, I have not been under anybody's bridge. I have not missed any beat. I've gone on vacations. I've done things. I've moved in different places. I've even got blessed with brand new cars. When I tell you, obeying God is better than anything anybody else can. And you don't need to be profoundly astute in the word. Obedience will acquire God to operate his word in and through your life, because he's a God that cannot lie. If he says he's going to do it, he's got to do it. If he's going to say he's going to speak it, you've got to believe it no matter what. And you can't let people get in your head. People try to get in my head. Well, how are you going to make the money? How are you going to? Did I say I needed money for me? Did I ask for money for me? I didn't ask y'all for anything. I asked you to support jeremiahsvoice.org. I didn't ask you to put anything in my hand, because when God lays me on someone's heart, trust me, God will release it into my hand. And I can't tell you the endless amount of miracles I have seen in the last 10 years of my life. I don't know what God's going to do with it, but I can tell you, faith in God when you have nothing will show you that God is for real. And for me, I tell people all the time, don't tell me you believe you have faith and you believe in God. As soon as something happens, the first thing you want to do is get mad at God. What? No, why? Trust him. Let him show you. He always tell you, prove me. When you tired, prove me. Watch me show up. And I've seen him show up time and time again. And I'm thankful to him. And I have to give him the honor and the glory. That's why I realize ministry, you're right, is literally extending ourselves to other people. But it's extending the faith that we have to other people. And I encourage people to believe God for the crazy things. Even in the pandemic, I haven't missed a beat, to the glory of God. I'm telling you, God will take care of your littlest needs. I promise you. I can tell you some stuff that will blow your mind, and you're sitting here like, really. And people that know me, the people that know me for real, know that I'm telling the honest to God truth. I don't. My family is confused. They are still trying to figure out, how is it that you're living where you're living, driving what you're driving, and you don't ask us for money. I have a God that says, my God will supply all, not some, not a partial, not a piece, but all of your needs according to his riches in glory. So it ain't about me. It's about the Lord. He got to show himself strong, because he showed himself strong. I'm going to tell it.
Look, I got one question left. I got a statement and then a question. And the statement is this.
Yes.
The Bible says he owns cattle on 1,000 hills. The Bible says the gold and the silver belong to him.
Absolutely.
So I'm in Texas, y'all. He's a massive rancher. It's not a problem for God to slaughter a cow, kill it, and give us the money.
Right.
Sell it, kill it, sell it, and give us the cash.
Absolutely.
But he doesn't even have to destroy his cows if he don't feel like it, because the gold and the silver belong to him.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
he is faithful to his word.
Absolutely.
So I am so glad for this walk of faith. And Tiara just tagged me in, and I'm gonna have to let her know that when I go live in my page, it doesn't give me the opportunity to tag. And the last time I go live in my page, next time I go on my profile, and then switch it to the page. I'm learning something new every day.
That's
but what I'll do is share this to the profile as soon as we get done talking.
Okay.
Tiara wants to pop on. She'd love to talk to you. I know it. I know it.
Well, yeah, I told her today we were going to talk, and here's the beautiful thing, and I celebrate you, Dr. K. I thank you for stepping out on faith and doing the things that you're doing. What people have to understand is when God gives you something, whatever it is, and it will sound crazy, it will not make sense to the human mind. Stop trying to figure it out. Just do it. Nike has the best slogan in the world. Just do it, and don't worry about what people say or think. When you get people out of your head and get God in your head, you will do things that you don't even understand. How did I do this? How did that happen? Because God is trying to show himself. We need God to show up and show out in the time that we live in right now. We need him more now. And the only way he's going to show up and show out, guess what? It's through us. Man is not going to drop from heaven. Ain't not birds not going to fall from the sky and we're going to start eating them quails. No, that's not going to happen, people. But it's through our lives that he wants to show up through us and allowing ourselves to be available and submissive to him for him to be glorified. That is where people are missing it. They're looking for something that does not make any sense whatsoever, but they are the one that God wants to use to be that blessing. What if you are the blessing for somebody, but you're too busy trying to figure out how you're going to make it or how I'm going to get the next hustle? Well, you're figuring out all that. And God is saying, if you would just take what I gave you and give it to that person over there, I will bust the doors wide open. And all you got to do is walk in them. And I've seen God do that over and over when you just simply sit back and say, Lord, what do you want me to do? I got $20. What? Oh, give it to that person. But by giving it to that person in obedience, a floodgates of doors open up of opportunities just because I obeyed. It's really that simple.
It really is. When God knows that we're faithful, when he knows, we talk a lot about trusting him, but God has to be able to trust us.
Ooh, that's a whole word. Selah.
There you go, Selah. That's that Selah moment. God has to be able to trust us. And he's not going to give us more if we have not properly handled the little bit that he gave us. So if he hands us a $20 bill, we pick it up and we find it on the, you find money on the street. Every now and then. I don't find a lot, but every now and then. If I find a $5 and God says, okay, now I want you to take that $5 bill and buy lunch for this person who's begging on the street. Well, God, I'm kind of hungry myself. And I was just thinking this $5 would go a long way at a McDonald's. Yeah, it'll go a long way for that person who's begging on the street because they need to eat and you might need to work on a fast. But giving God that being obedient with that $5, sacrifice. I mean, obedience is better than sacrifice. Being obedient and giving that $5, and I've had it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That $5 and turned around and got 20.
Right. Absolutely.
And got a better meal for my lunch because I shared the $5 that I got for that other person. So God, when God knows that he can trust us, that's that phrase, faithful over a few things, I'll make you ruler over a lot. If you want to handle a lot, be faithful over a little. Don't complain about a little. Be faithful over it. Let God trust you with some blessings. And when he knows that you're trustworthy, like this woman has proved herself trustworthy. So he says, yeah, I know that you're going to handle the money rightly. You're going to handle the blessing rightly. You didn't set up a 501c3 to give you a paycheck. Set up a 501c3 so people would be able to glorify me and know that I'm real, know that I exist.
Absolutely.
And that those who diligently search for me will find me. I'll show up through you. See, two preachers are on this thing. This can go, but we're let me look at my time. We're at 11:53. We're down to the last 7 minutes because I promised I wouldn't take more than an hour of your day.
Absolutely. And Jeremiah is probably wrecking my living room right now, but that's all right. He's safe. That's all that matters.
So what I want to do with these last 7 minutes is give you an opportunity. And for anybody who catches this, I'm Cassandra, Dr. K. Brown. This is Talk to Conversations, Talk to Tuesday Conversation with Jacquie McIver of Jeremiah's Voice, a true 501c3. When you give to these, when you give to Jacquie and to this wonderful organization, this ministry, you will help 4 families this holiday season who have a child who is diagnosed with some disability. You will help them with what they need to have a wonderful holiday, and you will give them a catered meal. These families, they can't go to restaurants. They can't, they can't make that reservation at that nice place. One, because they've got a child with a bad immune system who won't survive if somebody does have COVID. And we're also in flu and cold season as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Child can't survive what might come into the house
Right.
In your breath, not just that way, because I can't come up with anything else more clever right. So I want to make a plea. When you see this video, there is a donate button. I want to make a plea that you donate to Jeremiah's Voice and help them raise the $3,000. And somebody said, I can do math. 4 times 7 is 2,800. There's always overages. So $3,000 so that they can bless these 4 families. In this last few minutes, and I think now we're down to 5.
Okay.
Here's how to contact you.
Absolutely. Go.
Should they not use this link that I've provided, and how to just really be a support and how to pray for you.
Absolutely. And I thank you again for this opportunity and this time to have this conversation. I've enjoyed it. I've been encouraged and inspired as well. jeremiahsvoice.org is our website. So if you go to Jeremiah's with an S, jeremiahsvoice.org, you can see a big orange donate button, or you can donate to what Dr. K has set up, because both of those will actually come to us. We actually have a donate management system that when you click on donate, it will attract all of your information, but at the same time, you will get your tax receipt right away. Because one of the things that I'm big, and I said this to you before, I'm big on integrity. When you give me $1, you need to know where your dollar is going. And I have no problem sharing with that with anyone, because at the end of the day, I want people to know that your dollar is making an impact. These families that we've been helping over the course of the last 3 years we've been in existence, their lives have been changed. Their lives have been able to see, somebody's thinking about me. I'm not alone. What you have to understand is when you give to someone else, you're giving to someone else who may or may not have any hope, who may or may not have any positivity in their life. All they're hearing is negative. You've got people who are constantly divorced and marriages are struggling just to communicate because their child has something that's beyond a parent's control. Think about it this way. If you have a child, and some people are not parents, but if you have someone that you love deeply, it doesn't have to be your child, and you can't do anything to change their situation, how do you feel? But that's how parents feel every day. And when they have to look at their child, they can't do anything to help them other than provide the support that they have. But Jeremiah's Voice wants to be that beacon of hope, be that light, be that illumination to them to say, you can make this. So for the holiday season, we have Chef Cassandra. Chef Cassandra is outstanding. And Chef Cassandra literally is a certified chef. She's certified with the American Heart Association, American Diabetes Association. So she provides a healthy, full meal, and we feed the entire family. So we feed up to 6 people. So we don't just think about, just giving a turkey. We make sure the turkey can feed everybody. And so we make sure that we include everything, because I look at it from my perspective. When people don't know what to do or what to give, what do I need? And then I flip it and I talk to the families and I said, what do you need? I was talking to just one of the mothers. They couldn't believe that we were doing this for them. They couldn't believe that they were chosen by their organization to participate in the Hope for Holidays. She said, no one has ever done anything for my child, ever, because they didn't know what to do. Well, talk to Jeremiah's Voice. Not only donate, but connect with us on our website. You can actually learn more about people who are facing challenges that are outside of your scope. Remember this. There are families who are having children who have various different disabilities or diagnoses with different disabilities. They need some voice. If you know somebody with a child or with an adult with a disability, will you reach out to them? Will you just send them a text message? Say, hey, we're thinking about you. Will you send them a Facebook message? Will you let them know that they're not alone? Because I promise you this, I talk to parents over and over all the time. The first thing they'll say is, we feel alone. We feel nobody wants to be around us because our child is different. We feel like nobody understands. We're not asking you to solve anybody's problem, but encouraging someone with an encouraging word, or donating to Jeremiah's Voice and making these families literally lives be experience something beautiful. You can do that. You have the control, you have the authority. And if you want to give to an organization, like I said, we're vetted through, we get audited, we are legitimate. I love the fact that we're a 501c public charity because we service all people, all nationalities, all ethnicities, because at the end of the day, we want that family's and that child's life to be different. And we want them to know that they can live beyond disability. So jeremiahsvoice.org, and I say that because that's our website. You can actually go out to jeremiahsvoice.org today and see the families, see the kiddos, see Anaya. Go check out Pablo's information, see what they're like, and look at their hope list. We don't do wish lists because we are not wishing for things. We are going to do hope things because faith is what? Evidence of things hoped for and not seen. So we want them to know if you hope enough for it, you'll get it. And we want to be that conduit to bring it to them. And one thing I want to say is we ask everyone to donate financially to us versus purchasing gift items for them. The reason is logistically, and the pandemic, logistically, to get that out, logistically, the family want privacy. We want to make sure that we protect everybody's integrity in the process. So just go to jeremiahsvoice.org, donate, go to Jeremiah's Voice, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got a YouTube channel. Connect with us and you'll find out what we're doing. And everything that we do, we publicly are transparent with everything. And we believe that when you support us, we will make a difference in someone else's life. And we want to say thank you in advance.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Hey, everybody, this has been Cassandra, Dr. K. Brown. It's sad when you got to read your own name to make sure what you're saying. Cassandra K. Brown, the Tilted Fedora trainer. And I've had the pleasure of spending an hour this Tuesday with Jacquie McIver, the CEO and Executive Director of Jeremiah's Voice. But not only in that position, I've talked to Jeremiah's mama. And she's taken this time that most people would find as a crisis, she's seen the opportunity and seized it. And now, instead of this time being a time of mourning, she's turned it into a time of rejoicing for other families. Absolutely. Jeremiah has made a tremendous difference in the lives of others, Absolutely. As well as in her life and now in your life. I'm going to invite you to donate to Jeremiah's Voice. Use the donation button that's underneath this video and get ready because I'm going to message it out to a lot of you. I'm going to share this thing like nobody's business. Our goal is $3,000. Absolutely. Our goal is $3,000 and everything above that is gravy. Absolutely. If we can raise the 3,000 just in this Facebook community, then Absolutely. She may be able to add 2 more families to the list. Absolutely. We'll do that happily. You got the budget and you've heard her say that these families need the help. Jacquie, I'm so grateful for the time that you've spent with me. Thank you so much. To those who are listening, thank you so much. To those who catch the replay, thank you so much. All righty, y'all. There's your kiss. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. You are welcome. We're going to end this video. Make sure I look at the camera and smile.